Hey guys, today on the e-commerce uptake, we're going to be talking about how or when you should be testing multiple things at once. This is a very debated topic, and I think it comes with no conclusive answer, but at least I'm going to show you a few things that makes it easier for you to understand whether you should be testing multiple things at once. The first thing I want to say is that many different CROs or specialists will tell you that it far outweighs the negative effects by testing multiple things at once, because speed, definitely you can test way more things, obviously because you're running multiple tests at once. And also they will say that there's not really any statistical issue with having multiple tests at once running at the same time. Now, as a CO conversion agency, we're definitely worried about testing multiple things at once because you cannot really lock in to understand what increases conversion rate and what decreases it. And typically what you see is you have a homepage test, a PDP test, and they both have some influence on the conversion rate. Ultimately, they will have a increase or decrease. It might be a 5% uptick, but that's the combined effort of both tests. And actually, if you isolated both, you might have seen that the homepage test increases by 15% and the product page actually decreases it by 5%. And then you're left somewhere around a 10% uplift, and you're concluding both tests are great. Let's implement both of them. But actually, if you had tested them separately, you would have killed the product page test and only included the homepage test. So this gets a little bit technical, right? I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you a few things as well. As you can see here, we have a really nice screenshot from ConversionsCraft and actually shows you an example of 100 visitors where we have an A/B test on the homepage and we have a CD test, variant test on the P page. And it kind of creates 4 subsets because they're exposed to either AOP on homepage, and then they're exposed to either C or D on product page. And you can see here how it splits it out in 25 even segments. And it could be easily that this segment up here increases conversion rate, and this one here doesn't, actually decreases it. And the same here, we get all different results. And you might conclude, because you're not looking at the test like this, you're just looking at, is this a good test or is this a good test? Is it increasing conversion rate? You might get a flat result here, you might get an increase here. And the product page test, one of the variants might have been positive in terms of increasing conversion rate, but because of that homepage test, it actually evens each other out, which means that ultimately you don't know if it helps or not. That's the problem about testing multiple things at once. And again, some people will tell you that it's fine, that's not a problem, but we've just seen over and over that we cannot trust the results. Here's just an example of how I broke it down, where you can see that one could be a 10% uplift and one a drop. And then when you factor in your product page test, you might conclude that they're successful or not, but is actually being influenced by this test up here. Now, how can you actually resolve that? That's what you want to know. Should I be testing more or not, right? There's a few things you can do to resolve that. You can test based on segments. This means you can split your audience up in different audiences. So basically you could split your cold traffic up 50-50. If you're running a lot of traffic through Meta and Google, it's easy to split that traffic up in 2 different portions. You could also split it up based on time zone or based on a certain time of the day. You could do device types and so on. So for example, if you're using Convert, I'm just using that as an example. One way you do that is you go into your audiences, and you can see here, this is just a test I'm running on Purple Fire right now. You can see I have different audiences in here, and I could run any audience I want. I can do it based on traffic source. I could also run it based on time of the day, as I said, geographic zone as well as another one. You could do different states. So if you're a US client, you're getting a lot of traffic from 2-3 different states, you could just divide it up by different states and you will still be able to get really good results. But there's also different metrics. Is it a mobile phone? Is it a tablet, a desktop? So there's different segments that can help you run 2 tests at once without corrupting the data. But of course, there's a drawback with some of them. If you're testing mobile versus desktop, obviously that's not great, because you might want to know the mobile effect, right? Because most of your traffic is there. Another thing that I really like to do is to use UTM parameters. So basically what I'm doing is doing different campaigns on Meta, and I'm testing out the audiences only from those campaigns from my ads, right? And it's a really nice way of testing. We do that for our clients all the time as well. You can also do multi-page tests. So let's say you want to test a funnel versus another funnel. You could do a new homepage, a new PDP, a new cart, and you could test that against another funnel, right? So you do different funnels, and that's a way for you to test multiple things at once, and it's a really good way of doing that. You can also do multivariant. So, we could do on the homepage an A/B CD tests, right? So we do different variants here, and that can help a lot as well, just because you can test a lot of things at the same time. And usually when you do an ABCD test, you want to let that run for a couple of weeks, and then you want to pick the 2 winners, and then you want to run those against each other one more time, just to be sure you're seeing the clear winner. And that's a good way of testing using multi-variant testing. The last solution that you can use, which is something we are working on in Supersonic, which is the software that we are creating right now, where we're doing A/B testing software inside of it. And here we basically, I know it's a little bit difficult to see, but we are creating something called test isolation, which means that you can indicate in the beginning if you want users to be exposed to multiple tests or only one test. And if you click default, which is no, they will only be exposed to one test, and then they will sort of be in quarantine. They won't be able to see other tests during that session, which allows you to see that specific test in isolation if it actually increases conversion rate or not. And this is very, very useful because you could run 2, 3, 4 tests at once, assuming you have the traffic to it. Now, if you're a very, very low traffic store, let's say you're doing less than $50,000 a month, you don't really have a lot of revenue and you don't have a lot of traffic, then you can't do test isolation as well, because it's going to take way too long for those tests to basically conclude and get any statistical significance. In this case, I would slack a little bit on the rules and say that the potential upside in testing multiple things at once and not excluding it is going to outweigh the idea of not having any corruption of your data, and having a test running on homepage on PDP at the same time is going to be outweighing having that segmented data. That is one caveat that I think you should consider if you're a small brand. Multiple testing is just simply better. So anyway, this was a little video to kind of go over when you should be multiple testing at the same time, basically. And if you have any questions related to that, do feel free to reach out to me at my email or on social media on Instagram, where I'm gonna be happy to kind of review what test you are considering testing right now, and you should do isolated or you should do multiple tests at once. Hopefully this was useful, and if you did get any value in this video, please do subscribe below, comment if you found this video useful. It definitely helps a lot. Or if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple, please do leave a review, because it definitely helps a lot. So anyway, have a good day.